What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports News Hind Show. Today is August 12th, 2021, and this episode we're going to be talking about all things Bengals, and I'm joined by Frank Laplaca, host of the Unofficial Bengals podcast. How you doing today, Frank?
I'm doing good, Jordan. Thanks for having me on, my friend.
Thanks for joining. We have so much to get into. This is actually the fifth recording I have recorded today. So, been really busy trying to, upload content and different things. And, there is so much Bengals things to get, be talking about. And, the preseason game Saturday, but actually we're going to be talking about, Jesse Bates to start off. There's lots of Bengal fans. I would say all Bengal fans are really hoping the Bengals can extend Jesse Bates. And, they have yet to, agree on an extension. It is kind of interesting. Sam Hubbard was extended before Bates, which I think to a few people might have surprised them. And, Jamal Adams, the safety of the Seahawks, there's rumors he might get four-year contract, around $70 million. So I would say Bates might get somewhere near that. And Bates was asked about a contract extension talks. And he said, I guess I haven't done enough yet to be considered one of the top safeties in the league. So what are your kind of thoughts on this whole Jesse Bates situation?
Jordan, I think everyone's jumping the gun a little bit. I really feel, and I'm not in the Bengals organization. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I think they're going to extend him possibly like right after the last preseason game. I think like the first week of September, they're going to give him a 4-year deal. And it's going to be, as you said, it's going to be somewhere in the 14 million. I'm thinking like 14 to 16 million a year range. So my prediction is Jesse Bates signs beginning of September, 4 years, $56 million. He's the influence that he's had on the team and getting everyone to voluntaries and being a leader and being on the verge of being not just a Pro Bowler, but an All-Pro last year. Everyone's, again, jumping the gun and nervous because they're not throwing money at him right away. Sometimes teams like to wait a few weeks. They like to see if everyone makes it through training camp healthy. But I know he's in their plans, and I know they're going to re-sign him before the season starts. They're not going to let him go into the season as a lame duck and, like lose enthusiasm for the team and then franchise tag him next year. Like, I don't see that whole situation. Again, I'm not in the organization. I can't definitively speak on it, but I'm saying in September, 4 years, $56 million, Jesse Bates is a Bengal for the long term.
I agree. To me, I think, some people think it might be, more money. I think it is possible, but at the same time, we have to look about, who we're dealing with here. This is the Bengals, who are, quite, well known for at times underpaying, their homegrown guys. Whitworth, he was shocked, he was lowballed in offer. And with Bates, to me, I feel like there will be eventual contract extension finished, but I really feel like people are overreacting about this right now. I did a episode earlier today. I don't remember the topic me and my guests were talking about, but I kind of brought up the draft and training camp, in my opinion, are the two times a year where NFL fans overreact more than any more part of the season. I feel like training camp, there's so much buzz. People are itching for storylines and for the season to come back. In the regular season, you kind of, a small storyline kind of gets blown out of proportion. Like that Russell Wilson situation we saw back in March, where he supposedly wanted traded and everything like that. But to me, I feel like this is one of those situations and storylines where, in a way, it's kind of blown out of proportion. And I feel like the Bengals know what they're doing. One of the few times they know what they're doing. I feel like we will get an extension done with Bates, maybe for or around 65, 70, because I really feel like the Bengals, I feel like we have a best roster we've had since at least 2015. Bates is our best player, I would say, not only on defense, but on our team in general right now. And they want to lock him up for the long term. Because if we ever go to a long playoff run or, even go to the Super Bowl, I feel like Bates is going to be a part of our team then. So I really feel like they might actually pay him the price he's worth, maybe around that 15, 16 range for maybe about 4 or 5 years, something like that. But overall, I would be more surprised if we didn't extend him than if we did.
I agree with you. And you're right. When March and May rolls around, we're all just starving for any football news. So any story becomes magnified. So, I agree with you on that end. And I do agree with you that they are going to sign Bates. I'm saying 14 million a year. You're saying 15, 16 million, but you know what? It's probably going to be somewhere right in the middle of that.
And I mean, if it is, that's perfect in my opinion. I mean, really think about it. For instance, look at the Josh Allen contract. He's making, with his extension, $43 million over the next 6 years, which is absolutely crazy. But by the time his contract is over with, as crazy as this sounds, $43 million per year for a quarterback is actually going to be cheap. And, by this time, let's say Bates goes the 14, 15, 16, around that range for a 4 or 5 year deal. I feel like that is pretty cheap considering last season he was the best safety in the league. It's not biased. You look at the stats and his overall play, and look at the grades and everything. I feel like once this extension is done, it actually it's going to be a really nice deal, because by the time this 4 years are up, 15 per year for a top safety is going to be really, really cheap. So I feel like we would get him for 14 or 15. As crazy as it sounds, I think it might actually be a steal.
You know what? Very good point. And the reality is, whether they a 4-year deal or they franchise tag him, which I don't think they're going to do, they're not letting him leave the building. So, Bengals fans out there, relax. Jesse Bates is going to be part of the long-term plan one way or the other. And, as we talked about, I'm hoping that they just do the right thing and give him a nice fat contract before the season starts and get him extra motivated.
And, kind of speaking of overreacting a little bit with the, Jesse Bates not being extended yet, that kind of goes to our next topic. And to me, Michael Jordan is currently first on the depth chart, at the guard position, and lots of people are upset. And I feel like this is another one of those extremely overreactions. I feel like people losing their mind over this is far worse than people getting upset about Bates, because I feel like this is really being blown out of proportion. Because Michael Jordan by no means was good at all last year. He was he was part of the reason why Burrow ultimately got injured in Washington. But then you look, so far in training camp, supposedly he's not played great. But we drafted guard/tackle Jackson Carman in the second round, really surprising people. Some people thought it was a reach. I was one of those people. But you look at it, and I feel like either way, Bengals fans would be complaining, because Jackson Carman has never played a snap in the NFL. He was a reach, and he had some back issues in college. I feel like if he was first on our depth chart right now, there would still be some people complaining about how he's not proven anything, which to me is the exact reason why Jackson Carman should not be first on the depth charts. If you're going to start, or you're going to be a future piece, you didn't just go in there right away. You have to have competition. And to me, I know this is very, very, very unpopular opinion. I like that Jordan is currently first on the depth chart, because just because he's first on the depth chart before we even play a first preseason game does not at all mean that he's going to be starting for us week 1 against the Vikings. I think this is a smart move by the Bengals, because it's going to light a fire in Jackson Carman to bring up more competition. When you have competition between your guard spots, which is arguably your worst position on your entire team, it's competition always brings the best out of players. So I really feel like, in my opinion, this is actually kind of the best move as of right now.
You know what? I agree with you 100%. And that's the fact that they put Carman a little bit down on the depth chart is going to get him motivated. You can't just anoint a rookie who's never played guard before at any level as your starter. So I totally agree with you. And I'm also going to say this. I don't have a ton of money in the bank, but I will throw my whole bank account on a bet that Michael Jordan will not be the opening day starter. It's going to be Su'a-Filo, and if Carman's ready, it's going to be Carman. I guess I don't really even know the reason why they put Jordan number 1 on the depth chart. Maybe it was to give him a confidence boost. Maybe it's because Su'a-Filo battled injury and you have the rookie Carman. I don't know the exact reasoning behind it. I thought it was pretty weird. But again, everyone's overreacting. There is no chance Michael Jordan is starting game 1 unless there's a ton of injuries.
I completely agree. And, if Philo starts week 1, or even Jackson Carman, I would still think that's much more likely than, Michael Jordan, starting week 1. I feel like this is a major, major, major overreaction, by the Bengals fans as of right now. This is something, kind of one of those things, like, just because the depth chart happens, Okay, for instance, you look at the Patriots are playing the Washington football team right now. Cam Newton started. That does not guarantee that Cam Newton's going to be a week one starter. I feel like, we've not even seen, Michael Jordan, Suafilo, or Jackson Carman play. It's way, 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 way too early to already make assumptions of who's going to start week one before we've even seen a preseason week one.
Yeah, 100%. The early reports I heard on Jordan, like I saw him first on the depth chart, and I was like, all right, maybe he's showing Pollock something, maybe he's growing. But I know he had like a holding call in one of the scrimmages. I know that's not a big deal. Everyone's going to get him. He got torched by Hubbard on a play. I'm like, wow, it's starting up already. Like, you're putting him number one on the depth chart. There's already been like 2 highly publicized errors that he's made over the last week. But again, we can't read into anything in any direction right now. But no, I almost think that Michael Jordan might not even make the roster. I mean, maybe he probably will, but there was a thought in me when the season first started, the preseason. I was like, he's not going to make the team. But, we'll have him first from the depth chart. It's going to give him every opportunity to try to improve his game and see if he belongs here. But I don't know. I'm a little bitter over the Burrow injury, and I know, Michael Jordan didn't mean that, of course. But I don't know. I'd like to see him on the bench. You can't trust it, Jordan. You can't trust it. You can't put that guy in there after what happened in the Washington game. And especially people are talking about, can you slide him out to tackle because he's got, a bigger frame? And would you want to see him on an island protecting Burrow's blind side? I don't know. And I'm not trying to diss on our players. I root for every one of these guys, Michael Jordan included. But yes, the guy's not going to see time on the field unless something major goes down.
I completely agree. I do not want to see him end up being a tackle. I feel like that would be worst case scenario and far worse than we possibly could imagine, because we expect our offensive line to be slightly improved this season. In my opinion, lots of Bengal fans are talking about how lots of non-Bengal fans, basically casual fans, are complaining about how our offensive line sucks, but they do not realize it's a little bit better than we think it's going to be. And it kind of goes to our next topic here. The first throughout training camp, Burrow has struggled a little bit, partially due to the at times inconsistent offensive line. What are your thoughts on this? Burrow's early struggles.
I'm going to be dead honest. I'm really upset with everyone for coming down on Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has become my favorite player, but I'm not just going to be a homer and blindly root for him. But I mean, I even heard one of his press conferences like a couple days back, and he's like apologizing and saying he's got to step it up and he's getting frustrated. And you know what? Shame on everyone. Shame on everyone. Shame on the front office. Shame on the coaching staff. Shame on the fans. I don't know about you. I've torn an ACL before. I don't know about Tom Pelissero and all Ian Rappaport, all your NFL analysts, even the coaching staff. Until you've torn an ACL, you do not know what it's like to go through that. And as I said, I've done it before. And now you got this guy who didn't just tear his ACL, he tore 3 knee ligaments. And he's coming back in 8 months. Like they say 9 to 12 months of an injury. Realistically, it's 12 months. And you can come back early. We saw Carson Palmer do it years ago. But it's not a 9-month injury. You can come back early. You're risking yourself. So here he is at the 8-month mark, and he's struggling a little bit. Of course he's struggling. It's an ACL. I don't care. It's human anatomy. It's like, it's not just like, you can get this wonderful coaching and wonderful rehab and have all the will in the world-class athlete. It's still human anatomy. You're not going to heal from an ACL in 8 months. I don't care who you are. And now here he is at 8 months, trying his tail off to be a great quarterback. And of course there's struggles. Yeah, of course he's not 100%. And we're forcing him into the lineup because every fan wants to see it, me included. I want to see him play. Although I think they should have sat him until the 4th game. People think I'm crazy when I say that, but it's a matter of everything. They want to sell tickets, and I'm not criticizing the organization. I get it on all levels, but they want to sell tickets. They want to have the fan base be encouraged because he's the best player to walk through these doors in 3 decades. So I get the fact that they're rushing him back, and he's got that warrior mindset where he thinks he can do everything, and he has no fear, and he's going to try to come back. But man, they're bringing him back too early, and we're seeing that. And now what? The guy's got to explain himself why he's not playing well. Anyone out there who's criticizing Joe Burrow's play, you tear your ACL and you tell me how you're feeling after 8 months. I had to learn to walk again, and I'm not trying to be all dramatic and stuff, but really, when you tear your ACL, it's not a game. It's not a small thing. And we're all thinking, oh, he's a warrior. We'll get him back for week 1. He's fine. He's Joe Burrow. He's saying all the right things. The trainers are saying, of course, the trainers are going to force him back out there. He's the key to this organization. He's the key to this organization selling tickets, making money, and winning games. Of course, they're going to want to force him back there as soon as they possibly can. And it's too early. It's too early. I hate to say it. I want to see him out there game 1. I don't want to give away the first 4 games of the season. But, man, if you really, really think about a guy's long-term health and you've had experience with an ACL, give the guy a year. Like, I don't know. I know I sound crazy, but, I mean, I wouldn't have played him until week 4 or 5. That's obviously out the window now. Anyone criticizing him just doesn't get it. It's just not that easy. And it's not just an ACL. It was 3 ligaments in his knee. Sorry to rant, but it's a really touchy topic for me. And I just want to clear the air on that. Like, get off Joe Burrow's back, and everyone should be ashamed of themselves for having this kid have to, apologize for not being a total superstar right now, 8 months removed from an ACL.
I 1000% agree. People have wanted change in the Bengals organization for years. They've wanted this guy who can lead us to the promised land. We get him. Unfortunately, he gets hurt. He has 2 or 3 bad days of overreacting training camp, doesn't play good, and fans are like, oh, this isn't good. What's happened with Burrow? What do you expect? When he got hurt in November. When he got hurt, people were already, assuming or maybe, talking about, oh, maybe he's going to be he's not going to play at all this season. When he got hurt in November, he's ready to play week 1 of the regular season. If he needed to, he could play week 1 of the preseason, which to me, it's like, what do you expect when a guy has a horrific injury with like that? I mean, yeah, we think Burrow is going to be great and everything, but at the same time, there's going to be mistakes. We're putting way, 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 way too much pressure on him. Not just, Burrow, but the fact that you add on this horrific injury, I'm kind of, I don't know how to describe it. I agree with you, just kind of mad at Bengal fans because, he's not going to be playing like some MVP candidate in like the first 2 days of training camp coming off an injury where he should be out longer. And it's like, to me, like, it's just it does not make any sense. Another thing to me, I'm not kind of trying to change the topic or go on a different rant, but okay, Joe Burrow struggled for about 2 or 3 days in training camp. It's all over Fox Sports 1, ESPN, NFL Network. Oh, did the Bengals already ruin Joe Burrow and all that bunch of crap? Dak Prescott had a horrific injury, nearly just as bad as Joe Burrow did last season. All of a sudden, everybody talks about if Dak Prescott's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, an elite quarterback. To me, I talk about this pretty much daily to people. It's the fact that anytime the Bengals are on TV or they're talking about the Bengals or news about the Bengals, it's always in a negative way. You look at the Cowboys or the Steelers, no matter what, it's always in a positive way. Dak Prescott, he's not playing in the preseason. He had a horrific injury last season, but he's an elite quarterback all of a sudden. He's not having the same exact injury as Joe Burrow, but he's coming off a season-ending injury, just like Joe Burrow. But we should be panicking about Burrow. But Prescott is an elite quarterback, despite he threw for like 400 yards a game when he went like 1 of 3 as a starter. To me, I know I'm kind of switching topics here, but that's a rant, and that's a topic to me that just really gets me going because it's clear anti-biased Bengals and it's clear biased Cowboys when it comes to, Burrow's struggling. Oh, the Bengals ruin him when it goes to Prescott. Oh, he's an elite quarterback all of a sudden. To me, that just really, really aggravates me, and it makes absolutely no sense at all.
I totally agree with you. And, the Steelers and the Cowboys and the Patriots, they're the media darlings. The Cowboys had an under 500 record last year, yet I think they have like 6 national games this year. It just goes to show that, I guess based on fan base, if that's what the most popular teams are, then that's what the NFL is going to do because there's money involved. But the Bengals, small market team, kind of a checkered history, no one's going to give it the benefit of the doubt on anything. And you nailed it. You're exactly right. There's total inequity.
And you mentioned the 6 primetime games for the Cowboys. They would totally have more, but there's a limit. The limit is 6, which kind of further proves mine and your point. The Steelers, Cowboys, and Patriots are the sports media and football media is like favorite buddy. They got to show off their little toy. But when it comes to the Bengals, who has promise and everything with Burrow, Mixon, Chase, Boyd, and Higgins, we're like non-existent. The only time we're talked about is in a bad way. And another pretty much example of that is I do not remember who wrote it, but there was a piece the other day, a couple of days ago, talking about Jamar Chase, his route running, his separation from defenders hasn't been, blown out of this world. What do you like that? That's been on Fox Sports 1, 2, and NFL Network and ESPN 2. What do you expect when Jamar Chase has not played in a game in over a year and a half? The last game he played in was a national championship game in January. This is over a year and a half ago, actually, playing against NFL competition. He's playing against, sophomores in college, the last game he played in. I don't get, it's like the ESPN and everybody like that puts high pressure on the Bengals when they expect us to suck, but then we do suck, or we don't suck, but it's like they make a headline out of nothing, basically. And with Chase, that's another thing which I really feel like people are overreacting about. It's like this whole Chase, separation and everything like that. It's just another one of those examples. Just like the Burrow struggling early on, it's like every single time we're mentioned on national TV, it's always in a negative way.
So true. So true. And CeeDee Lamb wasn't lighting it up for the first few games of last year. Like they just want to highlight the negative, and even Bengal fans panic. Oh, Chase had a drop in practice. Wow, Bates stripped Chase. Is he going to be, he's been playing in training camp for 2 weeks. I don't care about everything that went on over the summer. He's been 2 weeks on an NFL roster. Everyone's got to just slow down, let these guys just do their thing, let things develop. Burrow's going to be fine once he gets a little more healthy, and I'm convinced that Chase is going to be the real deal. I mean, I see it's not just, all right, he dropped a pass here, he didn't have preparation here, he fumbled here. You could see when a guy's got it and when a guy doesn't have it, and you know that Chase has it. He's going to have an excellent rookie year. So let everyone talk the game now. Let everyone panic now. But when the season starts, you're going to watch this guy on a pretty quick road to getting 1,000 yards and being a major contributor and taking up double coverage and freeing up Higgins and Boyd.
I completely agree. And I saw a record prediction post a couple of days ago, and somebody made, and it was laughable how funny and stupid it was, but at the same time, it kind of made me mad. The person had us going 2-15, which to me, it's like, how stupid can you possibly be? Yeah, we're gonna win 2 less games than we did last season. I mean, we won a game with Brandon Allen against the Texans. The Texans were not a good team, but it was our first road win in over 2 years. We won Monday Night Football against the Steelers with Ryan freaking Finley. It's like the expectations for the Bengals are so low, and regardless of what we do, unless it's a playoff win, nobody's going to care about what we do, unfortunately. And it's crazy. I'm not trying to be biased. You mentioned about how great Chase is going to be. I think he's going to be phenomenal. There's a realistic chance we're going to have possibly 3 different wide receivers have 1,000 yards. If that's happened in the NFL, that's not happened many times at all. And, if the Cowboys did that with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb, it's going to win everything. If we did it, nobody would know about it because not be talked about at all.
So true. And all those guys are threat to get 1,000 yards. I mean, Higgins looks like he's better than he was last year. You and I just talked about how we feel about Chase. And I've been on record saying this, the Burrow to Boyd connection last year before Burrow went down. Look out for Boyd. Look out. I mean, Chase and Higgins are like the sexy picks to look at, watch Boyd. Boyd is going to have this over-the-top Pro Bowl level year, although he'll probably get dissed on the Pro Bowl because, we never kind of get our due. But you are exactly right. All three of those guys are a major threat to get 1,000 yards as long as they stay healthy.
And you mentioned Boyd with the Pro Bowl. You can honestly make a case. 3, I would say more than likely 2. He's had 2 Pro Bowl caliber seasons the past 3 years. Like he's had over 3,000. He's averaged over 1,000 yards the last 3 years. I would say, I'm not going to be biased. I'm going to say he's tied for the most underrated receiver in the league right now. He's tied with DJ Moore of the Panthers. Honestly, I know this might be, I kind of mentioned it on a episode I did today. I know this is unpopular. Boyd's probably actually my favorite current Bengal player. I just really, really like him. I've been able to meet him a couple of times. He's a real nice guy, super, super underrated. And, I was looking, on Twitter, like some, Bengal clips, and I completely forgot about a play. It was one of the last games of the year, a couple of years ago, when we came back from behind and tied it against Miami. A 17-point deficit, and we tied it and could have won. And if we did win, we would have not been able to draft Joe Burrow. And I remember watching that clip, and Boyd, you can tell he's extremely hurt. Like he's limping and literally crawling like to line up to make a play. To me, that really just shows the determination and like how willingness he is to win, and just kind of goes back to like how underrated he is to me.
100%. And when you think of Boyd on 3rd down and on 4th down, those conversions, he has made so many big plays for us. So, you start losing track of him because we haven't had a ton of wins the last couple of years. But, man, he has been totally clutch in the right circumstance. I mean, 3rd and 12, the game on the line, all of a sudden Boyd's out there for a 1st down. I've seen it happen multiple times.
And I think, it's going to be really interesting because with us having one of at least a top 5 wide receiver core, who knows who's going to lead our team in receiving. It's going to be really interesting to watch. And, the preseason game against the Buccaneers is this Saturday, and that's going to be really interesting to watch, too. There's so many players to look into that might have, breakout games. So who are some of the players you kind of, keeping an eye on this Saturday?
You know what? I want to see the rookies. You have your bubble guys like your Trent Taylors. You want to see how Darius Phillips does returning punts. We can go across the whole roster. Marcus Bailey, you want to see how he does. You want to see how Logan Wilson does with the calls and the headset. But when it really comes down to it, the starters and the veterans, I don't even want to see them play that much in the first preseason game or two because I don't want there to be injuries. They better not give Mixon a carry in this game. But I'm intrigued about the rookies. I want to see Guy get in there. I want to see what Shelvin can do. They haven't been talking about him much in training camp. Deontay Smith has been having a great camp. Let's see how he does. He's going to get pushed into the lineup a lot. Let's see Chris Evans out of the backfield getting some receptions. Let's see if Trey Hill belongs on this level. Let's see if Cam Sample is healthy enough. Let's watch McPherson, hopefully go 2 for 2, 3 for 3 on field goals. And, of course, Jackson Carman. Let's see what happens when he gets in there as well. So there's a lot to look at, and I would say I'm more interested in seeing the rookies right now than I am any veteran. I don't even want to see Higgins get the ball. I definitely don't want to see Mixon get the ball. Ogunjobi, no, he doesn't need the work. Save your Hubbard, save your Hendrickson, save your Bates and your Bells. Let's go. Let's get the rookies a good chance, and those are the guys that I'm most looking forward to, and I'm hoping that those are the guys that play the most this Saturday in Tampa.
To me, if I'm Taylor and the Bengals, I don't even play Mixon, Boyd, Higgins, Bates. Honestly, I don't know if I would play Chase. I know I sound crazy. I do not want to take a chance of getting one of our star players hurt again in a meaningless game when we know they're already going to be productive. There's no point in even playing them. Earlier in this Patriots and Washington game, I think it was the Patriots' second drive maybe, Cam Newton got absolutely rocked by Chase Young. At first, it looked like Newton got hurt, but he didn't. It was a tremendous sack by Young, and it goes back to last season against Washington. I don't think it would be a smart idea to play our top guys when it's not necessary to. And a couple guys to me I'm really interested in. To me, number one has to be Jackson Carman because we already talked about the competition with him and Michael Jordan and Sufilo. We don't know, depending how Carman plays, maybe he goes up to the guard number two or maybe even number one. Lots of people kind of talked about Carman's weight recently. He's not played great throughout training camp. Now, these preseason games are the time where he can prove doubters wrong and, play much better than people maybe expect him to. And one other, couple other guys, I'm really interested to see Akeem Davis-Gaither. He's one of my favorites as well. And, he did not play a ton last season. He did not play as much as he should have. But the limited time he played last season, watching those games, he made a huge impact. I remember against Philadelphia, I believe it was Miles Sanders. He was going out for a wheel route, and Davis Gaither broke up that pass. And if you go back and watch that game, if Davis Gaither wasn't there, and if we did not have that diving deflection pass, we honestly, instead of tying, we would have lost that game. So I'm really interested in Davis Gaither, and one very, very underrated camp battle I'm interested in, just to see both of these guys, is Jordan Evans and Joe Bachie. Jordan Evans, I don't think is a lot to make the team. He re-signed with us on a one-year deal, and we signed Joe Bachie. It was a very underrated signing, and I think he has potential to make the roster and battle it out with Evans as the possible final linebacker spot. Joe Bachie, he was a rookie last season. I think he played for the Seahawks. I'm not quite sure. But coming out of the draft, he was actually one of my favorite linebacker prospects. He was in my top 10 linebacker rankings. And I was really, really happy when the Bengals ended up getting him. I thought that was an extremely underrated move. So I'm really interested in, Davis Gaither, Jackson Carman, and Jordan Evans and Joe Bachie.
That's great. You got your eyes on the linebacking core, and I hear you. There's a lot to look at there. You're right about Davis Gaither, and I do remember the play you were talking about. I just forgot the fact that would have been a loss if he didn't make that deflection. He also had a nice play in the backfield at one point. My problem with Davis Gaither at this point, I know he had a great college career for a semi-small school, but I just think he's undersized. To play the linebacker position at like 215 pounds, I don't know if I've ever seen that. So they might have to develop a unique role for him. I just can't see a guy that size be an every down linebacker. But yes, he has shown flashes like you just talked about, like I just talked about. So he's a big mystery. And I think it's going to be up to the defensive coaching staff to find a role for him. And as far as Bachie versus Evans, I'm gonna defer to you on that. I didn't know anything about Bachie coming out of college. I think he was with the Eagles a little bit too. I don't know. He's been a little traveled, but Jordan Evans kind of never lived up to the hype. He was like the fastest linebacker the year he came out, and he just never seemed to do it from the line of scrimmage. He just seemed to be a special teams guy. So I hear you on that. Those are fun battles to watch. Just like what's fun for me right now is the tight end position. When you have like Wilcox and Schreck and Moss and then, O'Grady and, and Pro Wells, all those guys, like that's kind of interesting who's going to get that third spot as well. And for some reason, I'm just rooting for Thaddeus Moss. I don't know why. He had a flashy college career. He's Burrow's ex-teammate, seems like a cool guy. And, I don't know. I'm like your interest in the linebacking core is how I feel about the tight end core. And they're both two like underdog units, not glamorous positions or anything, but I'm right there with you. I'm watching the whole roster and I'm making my choices, but I'm glad you're watching those linebackers because it's going to be an interesting battle.
Yeah, I completely forgot about the tight end battle. That's going to be really, really interesting. You look at, obviously Uzama and Sample are the two for sure. And then everything else, I don't think it's a guarantee that Moss makes the team. I don't think it's a guarantee that Mason Schreck makes the team. Pro Wells has been pretty nice. It's kind of interesting because, I'm from Huntington, West Virginia, and that's where Randy Moss played. And that's where Marshall University's campus is. That's where Randy Moss played college. So that's just Moss's son. So Thaddeus Moss is kind of cool to see. Your favorite team growing up his son plays for your favorite team, and also Pro Wells played at TCU. But before he played at TCU, he was originally committed to Marshall. Then he, went to TCU and everything. You mentioned Wilcox. O'Grady's one I'm really, really interested in. I don't think people are talking about enough. But I would say, that is a very, very underrated battle. Because you think about it, we're going to have at least 3 tight ends, maybe 4. And who knows? We might keep at least 1, maybe even 2 on the practice squad.
No, I agree with you. I think the same thing. I think they're going to have – I'm speculating who knows what the personnel department's going to do. But I'm thinking they're going to have 3 and put 2 on the practice squad. They're not going to they're going to keep 5 of those guys in the building. That's my opinion. And we always forget, injuries happen too. So even with the linebackers, you're thinking it's going to be these 6 guys and these 2 guys are getting cut. All of a sudden someone's hurt, and now one of the guys you thought was getting cut is going to be for action. So, yeah, those are the fun things. That we know who the starting wide receivers are. We know our quarterback. We know our defensive line. But the intriguing stuff is the linebackers, the tight ends, even that backup running back position. We could talk about that for 20 minutes right now on who we speculate, and we're not going to know anything until we start seeing preseason games.
And you mentioned with injuries and everything else. I was actually talking to somebody months and months ago, and I thought it was really interesting. I'm trying to look up. I cannot remember if Mason Schreck was drafted. I'm thinking he was. I know he came out of Buffalo. If he was drafted, he was a 7th round pick. But okay, he was. Let's see here. He was drafted in the 7th round in 2017 by the Bengals. At the time the Bengals drafted him, he would say he was probably our 4th string tight end. We had some injuries. He ended. Excuse me. Schreck, when we drafted him, it was very, very unlikely he made the team. He ended up getting hurt and was out for the year. The following year, he was our 5th or 6th string tight end. Something crazy. He ended up making the team, and he's been with our team ever since. He was a 7th round draft pick from a small school like Buffalo. He does not play a single regular season game his rookie year. And then, somehow works his butt off, spots are open, injuries happen, and he ends up making the team. So you make a great point there about the injuries. And, there's some guys, maybe like a O'Grady or Wilcox, if injuries happen, they might actually, be on the opening roster.
100%. That's there's going to be guys, we all have 3-man roster set right now, but there's a lot that's going to happen, and everyone gets hurt. We can look at our starting 22, our 11 and our 11, and I guarantee 2 of those guys at least are not going to be playing this season. So there's always going to be other people thrust into the mix. And that's how Mason Schreck stayed around for 4 years. That's how Jordan Evans stayed around for, I don't even know how long, 5 years, 6 years at this point. I don't even know how long he's been with the team. But yes, you can't bank on anything. And it's exciting and it's fun to speculate on everything because football's starting and you think it's going to be these guys, but then it turns into these guys. And I'm not trying to get on a tangent, but think about last year with our defensive line. It was going to be what? It was going to be Hubbard, Reeder, Atkins, and Lawson. And, by the end of the year, you didn't have the same 4 guys starting that you thought. It was very different than that. So it's fun to speculate, but we just never know what's going to happen. And injuries are going to creep up because it's a violent game played with very strong, very fast people. And as the years go by, they get bigger, stronger, and faster. And ligaments and knees, those, you can't strengthen that. You can't strengthen your ligaments, and you can't, no matter how strong you get, you can't prevent an ACL. Those things are always going to happen. And the force that these guys are playing with, we see it every year. Injuries are rampant. So it's almost like survival of the fittest at that time.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see some of these top guys or some of these, undrafted free agents or late round picks trying to, earn their roster spot this Saturday. So I know this is probably going to be a very inaccurate predictions due to we don't know how long some starters will play. It was announced. Bruce Arians said that all starters of the Buccaneers, for the most part, will be playing, which to me is very, very stupid. But if you had to have a score prediction for the Bengals Buccaneers game, what would it be?
All right. Well, first off, Arians is crazy. I wouldn't let Brady even throw a warm-up pass in this game. But let him do what he wants. A lot of times that's posturing by a coach to say, hey, we're resilient, we're tough, we're strong, we're fearless. So yeah, the starters are going to play in the preseason. You're absolutely crazy. You're being foolish. So I don't know. But as far as the score prediction, I'm always going to root for the Bengals to win. I'm always going to think that the Bengals are going to get the edge. So, I mean, I could easily say 16-6 Buccaneers. I could say that. But I'm going to say this. For the betting people out there, take the under on this game. And the Bengal fan in me, let's go 13-10 Bengals.
That's a very, very interesting pick. I'm thinking more so 24-16 Buccaneers. And we kind of mentioned, players to keep an eye on for the Bengals. Somebody I'm really, really, really interested in watching is actually on the other team. It's Kyle Trask, the quarterback of Florida. Last year I pretty much watched every single Florida game. You watch back on some of his games, he has potential, but to me he kind of reminds me of a Derek Carr. He has potential to be really good, but you watch his games, he has limited athleticism, and I feel like Kyle Trask is a perfect situation to be with Tampa Bay eventually once Tom Brady retires, and especially once we see Trask performing with some of these maybe top weapons who are actually in the game, depending how long Arians keeps them in. I'm really, really excited to see Trask play. But, as for the other Bengals players too, I would say 24-16 Tampa Bay.
All right. Let's see what happens. Either way, I'm going to be rooting for it. I'm going to be excited about watching the players. Even though preseason games can be sleepers, I love watching the back half of the roster battle it out. And me being in New Jersey, I'm not going to get to see the game live. And NFL Network also did the Bengals dirty, because that game is not going to be on until 4 a.m. Sunday night. Like after midnight on Sunday, 4 a.m, like technically Monday morning, is when I actually get to watch the Bengals. So I might actually tune out from social media just because I like to not know the score ahead of time. I don't know if that's going to help me or hurt me, because I know there's going to be a lot of news going on. But yes, that's it. But just on another note, the other two games, the game against the Washington football team is going to be broadcast live on NFL Network, and the game against the Dolphins is going to be broadcast live on CBS. So it's only, for me, I'm going to struggle for the first week and have to sit there and DVR it. But the other two games are going to be, I'll be right there in the action. So, yeah, definitely enjoy the game. I hear what you're saying about Trask. I mean, he's in the right system to succeed with Arians and underneath Brady. So that is going to be fun. But I'm still going to be rooting for Osai to blast him on the first play he's in there that he drops back on.
Well, I mean, I do agree with that. And you mentioned, the Bengals not being on. I live about 3 hours away from Cincinnati, and the game's not going to be on here. I think it's the Browns and whoever they're playing, I think. But, I mean, it's the defending Super Bowl champs with the greatest quarterback of all time starting in a preseason game. He should not be playing at all. But the fact that he's starting, it kind of goes back to, my rant earlier about, the Bengals not getting any credit. It feels like the majority of this episode, we've been just ranting on different things. More so me, just on like how, the sports media hates the Bengals. But if it was any other team playing the Buccaneers, it would be the Lions or the Eagles or whoever it may be, the Raiders. If there's any other team playing the Buccaneers who just won a Super Bowl, who has the best roster in the NFL, with Tom Brady playing, it'd be on national television. But it's not, because, as typical, it's the Bengals. And we all know they always try to put the Bengals on TV as least as they possibly can.
Exactly right. I remember, I'm not much longer, but I remember there was NFL Network. It was last year before the season started. They did an AFC North preview. And they talked about all three teams, but not the Bengals. I was like, this is an AFC North preview. You got to talk about the Bengals, even for 30 seconds. And they did not do that. But you know what, Jordan, let's embrace that. Let's be the underdog. Let's be the forgotten ones. It's better than being the ones with all the expectations. You know what? Forget about us. Forget about us. And then when Burrow and Chase and Higgins and Mixon and Boyd and Bell and Bates and Hendrickson and all those guys start banging away, then we're going to have our day. And it's coming. It's coming. I'm hoping we hover around 500 this year. I always want us to have 11 wins. I'm always predicting 11 wins. I could be tripping, but let's just be competitive this year and be in the fight. And then whether it's this year, next year, year after, let's make a charge and get us all where we want this team to be, and just be like, there you go, national media. We got you. You ain't going to forget about us now. You're going to remember our names.
And, it's going to be kind of hard for them not to talk about us because, in my opinion, we're not going to be last in the AFC North. I know that might be unpopular. But at the same time, even if we weren't last in the AFC North, they'll be talking about what's wrong with the Steelers, not be talking about, the Bengals are good. But I feel like we're going to surprise the people in some way, whether it's, maybe getting 500 or, we're kind of close in the playoff hunt, or Burrow has a sensational season. We have 3 receivers, maybe get 1,000 yards. Who knows? Cannot wait till Saturday to finally see some Bengals football. It's been far too long. It seems like this has been one of the fastest off seasons, though, but I cannot wait for the season. So, Frank, can you tell some of the listeners who can follow you on social media?
Yes. The name of my podcast is called The Unofficial Bengals Podcast, and you can find me on Instagram or Twitter at Cincy Bengals Pod.
Make sure to follow Frank there. I'll put the links in the description below on Instagram and Twitter. He has the best Bengals podcast out there. Thank you all so much for listening. Once again, Frank, thanks for joining everything. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I see you all next time on a Sports 2 Heinz Show.